Well, we have a student at Regent, or he used to be a student at Regent in the event. He's a bit of a wunderkind. He's a concert pianist. He's an accomplished speaker. He's a best-selling author. He's a law student. And he's only 27 years old. Now he can add something else to his impressive resume. He's the man who discovered the secret wisdom of our founding fathers. And the book is called Liberty's Secrets. So these are the inside vision of our founding fathers, Joshua Charles. What a fascinating book. And
Joshua Charles is a 27-year-old law student known for his New York Times bestseller, The Original Argument, which he co-authored with news commentator Glenn Beck. Joshua's newest book, Liberty's Secrets, answers pressing questions. What did the Founding Fathers really think about religion, education, and the role of government? To tackle these issues, Joshua unearths writings from our nation's founders, their letters, diaries, and memos, to let our forefathers answer using their own words.
Well, welcome to the 700 Club, Joshua Charles. Josh, it's good to have you with us.
It's an honor to be here, and I actually want to thank you. I'm a law student at Regent Law, and you know, there's a lot of terms thrown around Christians these days about being bigoted or whatever, but I'll tell you what, at Regent, I've had amazing professors who've been always available. There's a wide array of viewpoints that are always welcomed, and I love being there. So thank you for.
Well, I'm so delighted.
For setting that up.
You're doing well in your school?
Oh yeah.
Are you?
I think so. You have to ask my professors.
When do you graduate? Next year?
Yeah, 2017.
Well, it's tremendous. So in the meantime, you had a chance to write this book, fascinating, Liberty's Secrets. Tell us just, I mean, there's so much in this book, I can't go to all of it, but
sure.
What was motivating the Founding Fathers that you found? What was going on inside of them?
Well, I think prior to the founding of the United States, people had never been able to choose their form of government. They'd never been able to set it up from the ground floor, so to speak. And so they recognized that historically that had never happened, and they had an immense opportunity on their hands. And so, but they also realized that to make that possible, to be a self-governing people, you've got to be knowledgeable and virtuous. Those were the two main things. That's actually the longest set of chapters in the book. They knew that without a moral people that controlled themselves and kept their passions in check, but also a knowledgeable people who knew about their leaders, who knew what to expect, who knew what to look for, that a free society just wouldn't work. So that was essentially what they were looking for.
I see these young people, these so-called millenniums, going to one of these Bernie Sanders rallies, and I think, you're a bunch of ignorant sheep. They don't, I mean, they're cheering a man who wants to take away all their money. What is it?
You know, I refer in the book to the Founding Fathers as the Founding Prophets.
Yeah.
And the reason I do that is not because, you know, they were like Ezekiel or Jeremiah or Isaiah or anything like that, but because in their writings, they were so familiar with two things, human nature and human history. And when you study both, it's hard to avoid certain conclusions about what happens, and you see the same sorts of patterns. You know, I don't say history repeats itself, but it is kind of a variation on a tune. And you see the same sorts of things all throughout history. And I was actually just reading Justice Robert Jackson. He was one of our Supreme Court justices, was the prosecutor in the Nuremberg trials against the Nazis. And he was commenting on the founders. He said, never before had a group of men searched the annals of human history so completely to figure out this secret of how you can make a free society possible. So I mentioned the Founding Prophets because there's so many things they say that, of course, is in a bit more flowery English than we're used to. But it could have been said yesterday. And a lot, in my opinion at least, you know, I respect Bernie Sanders for how honest he is, but I don't partake of his views. But a lot of things related to banking institutions, monopolies, class warfare type issues, breakdown of morality, on all these issues, the Founding Fathers had things to say. And like I said, it was completely prophetic, a lot of what it could have been said yesterday.
They also had a balanced view of human nature. They weren't utopian at all. And Madison had that wonderful quote, if men were angels, you wouldn't need government. But they really understand that men were sinful, and the sinful nature of man, they set up a government that would keep man's sin from breaking out.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that is we have the benefit of, well, the somewhat dubious benefit of 20th century history, the bloodiest century in history. The founders knew that human nature was that which invented and created Auschwitz, but also painted the Mona Lisa. You know, carried out the purges in Stalin Russia, and also wrote Mozart symphonies. And so this duality, this very Judeo-Christian assumption about both the depravity as well as the magnificence of human nature, they incorporated that into basically everything they did as far as setting up our government.
Well, what about now? It looks like there are forces that wish to destroy that.
I think there are. I think a lot of it, you were asking about my generation in particular. I'm a millennial. I think my generation has a lot of really potentially great qualities. We're a very passionate generation. When we want to go out into the business world, into the career world, we want to do things that make a difference, and I think that's all good. But I would say in general, and it's not so much a critique of my generation, so much as just a diagnosis of it. You know, we were raised by a generation before us, and there's a lack of groundedness. We don't really know where we came from. We don't know our national story. We don't know the examples of history. I mean, it's so funny. I have various friends who maybe are Bernie Sanders fans. You know, I sit them down and I read for them examples of people saying similar sorts of things, and they're kind of blown, you know, from hundreds of years ago, oftentimes. And they're like, oh, yeah, that totally makes sense. I was like, oh, really? Well, this was said in the 18 and whatever, or 17 whatever. And it's like, what? You know, and there's this sense among a lot of millennials, they're very particularly hopeful about human nature. I think a lot of millennials assume human nature is inherently good. And of course, history belies that notion pretty strongly.
It sure does. And
or just good.
The Bible does as well. One last question.
Sure.
Glenn Beck is an interesting guy. How'd you get tied up with him? You've done some work together.
Yeah, well, it was a long story, but ended up being on the Fox, his Fox show at the time for totally unrelated reasons. I was out of town that had served, but no, he treated me very well personally, and I respect him, and it led to this, and now I'm at the Museum of the Bible doing a lot of writing and researching, and it all, you know, he helped catalyze that and get it started. So for that, he has my continuous thanks.
Where's this book? It's available
pretty much anywhere. Amazon, the W&D Superstore, all sorts of places.
You don't want to miss it, ladies and gentlemen. It's very interesting and very perceptive. And Joshua Charles, one of our our students that we're very proud of. It's called Liberty's Secrets. Joshua, thanks so much for being here.
Appreciate it.
God bless you.
Nice to meet you.